Welcome to the stream, a bit earlier than usual this game week due to commitments later this evening. But the deadline is 6 hours and 25 minutes away. We'll be live for around 90 minutes this time, I think. So if you have any questions, let me know in the chat. So if you're interested, go post a picture of your team and your team selection on my latest post on X. I'll try to pay a bit more attention. I actually realized that I lost a couple of drafts last night while having the FPL Q&A, so please send a reminder in the chat if you posted your team. FPL Lisa, thanks for joining in. As mentioned a bit earlier this week, the deadline is 6 hours and 23 minutes away, but so I would call this a pre-deadline stream. I will not be live for 6 hours this time. Yeah, Luca has sent his team. Please let me know if you're in the chat. So if you're not here at the moment, we'll just wait a couple of minutes before taking a look at your team. So if you're interested, head over to X and post a picture of your team. I have a decision to make. I'm leaning towards benching Joe Pedro for my own team. So please go vote in the poll. I had this poll yesterday as well. Joe Pedro, he was the one who the viewers thought should be benched, but after the confirmation that Alisson Becker, he will definitely miss the Liverpool-Chelsea game in game week 7, so I think that Liverpool can struggle without their goalkeeper. So I watched the game Liverpool against Crystal Palace, and Crystal Palace, they should actually have been 4-0 up early on, but Alisson, he had some really great saves early in that game. So can you have a look at my team? Team ID is 113026. Yes, I definitely will check that out. Bench Sar. So as mentioned, I have Joe Pedro currently on the bench. I'm leaning towards putting him into the starting 11, to be honest, after we got the confirmation about Alisson. Sar playing away against Everton. Everton, they have actually kept 2 clean sheets out of 2 possible clean sheets at home at Goodison Park. So I'm actually leaning towards benching Sar. Problem is I've actually benched Sar 2 games this season, and he has actually scored in both of them. Kind of annoying. Benched him in game week 3 and game week 6. Scored in both those games. Pepe, hi. Should I buy Calafiori or Timber this week for double Arsenal defense? I would go Timber if it's between Calafiori and Timber. Gabriel, he is probably the best option, but I think that Timber is close. He looks quite nailed on. Though my 2 defenders from Arsenal would be Timber and Gabriel. So on the screen, Saunders' team. Let's have a look. 69 points. This was a wildcard team in game week 6. Raya in goal. Double up on the Arsenal defense with Gabriel. Senesi is in as well. Tarkovsky. Bruno Fernandes unlucky. Bruno Fernandes owners missed another penalty in game week 6. I'm rolling this week. The bench is Caicedo, Richards, and Mukiele. I would definitely do the same. Caicedo to the bench. Gyökeres, of course, he should start for your team this game week, playing at home against West Ham. Caicedo, Mukiele, and Richards on the bench, and Dubravka, of course, you're starting Raya as well. A really good team. I think this team will do well in game week 7. Seeing you have NGI, I watched the game. It was really frustrating watching the Everton game as an NGI owner on Monday night. So Sandri, definitely this team is good to go ahead of game week 7. No transfers needed. Caicedo to the bench. Gyökeres in 3-4-3. And you will most probably captain Haaland. I think that Gyökeres is a decent captain punt this game week if you're interested in taking a risk, but seeing that he has actually played 180 minutes since last weekend, I think that he potentially can see limited minutes this game week. So 60, 70 minutes. I wouldn't be surprised to see Gyökeres getting bit of a rest against West Ham. I think he will start, but the captaincy, I think, at least for my team, I will just go for Haaland. Triple captain or bench boost this week? Thoughts? I would be tempted actually to triple captain Erling Haaland. He's in really good form, and Brentford, they are actually one of the worst teams defensively so far. So if you still have your triple captain, I would consider playing my triple captain this game week. I think that Erling Haaland will do well once again. Pepe, also, I currently have Richarlison, not happy with it, but should I waste another transfer just to get Mateta or Strand Larsen this week? I would be tempted to... It's not like Richarlison is a terrible option for game week 7, so I would just have a bit more patience, play Richarlison this game week and reassess. Let's see how Mateta and Strand Larsen does in game week 7. I think that transfers are valuable. You will get a bit more information, and it's not like Richarlison is out injured, so he will start. Solanke is not ready. Kulumani not ready. So you have the number 9. You have the number 9 for Spurs playing against Leeds. So I think there will be goals in this game. I know Leeds, they have actually been quite solid defensively, but I think that there will be goals in that game, and Richarlison is not a bad option for game week 7. So my advice would be to just hold your transfer at least one more game week. FPL FOMO, I'm benching NGI over Evan Nilsson this week. Not 100% happy, but a decision needs to be made. I totally get the feeling. I actually had NGI on my bench for a couple of days myself, but I didn't really feel happy about the decision benching NGI. He is a nailed-on starter playing at home. He is on set pieces as well, so I would be really annoyed if I had NGI on the bench, and he does well. But Evan Nilsson, he is a decent option for game week 7, so Ange, he looks like Ange is agreeing with me. Hold Richarlison one more week. Nemanja, what's your rank? My rank at the moment is 4.9 million, I think. Had a terrible start. So game week 1, I was actually ranked 9 million something. No returns. I only got 1 clean sheet from Van de Ven in game week 1. So I got 28 points. Terrible start, but at least I managed to half my rank since game week 1. Team looks nice. This is actually Sandri's team. He's considering a bench boost, considering triple captain as well. I think with this team, I would just put Caicedo on the bench, Gyökeres in the starting 11, and I would be tempted to triple captain Erling Haaland this game week. So my team is on the screen at the moment. As FPL FOMO mentioned in the chat, there are a lot of teams with benching dilemmas this game week. I have one myself at the moment. I'm actually benching Joao Pedro, but it doesn't feel right. He got a red card in the Champions League. This means that he will most probably play a lot of minutes in the Premier League. He will not be able to play European football. So I think Joao Pedro is safe option considering his minutes. On the other hand, he hasn't really looked that great recently. Played a lot of minutes. He looked really sharp, especially in the Club World Cup. Well, when he just recently joined Chelsea, looked good in the first game weeks this season as well. But from game week 4, I think he hasn't really looked that great. Looked a bit tired. Only had one shot the last 4 game weeks. So, and Joe Pedro is second on my bench. Wow, you have a really great team if you can have Joe Pedro second on your bench. I'm really tempted to put Joe Pedro in my starting 11. I want to play NGI, so at the moment I'm leaning towards benching Sar. Let's have a quick look at the poll. So once again, only one vote to bench Sar. Joe Pedro 41% and 53% thinks that NGI should be the one I bench. Let's see. And I just done Munoz to Gabriel last week, got too smart and went for Romero and Reinders and lost 13 points and a free transfer. So it made sense, but sometimes it's better to just have a bit more patience. Did you wildcard last week? I used my triple captain last game week on Erling Haaland. And this kind of saved my game week in game week 6. He was actually the only player delivering. I had Rodgers as well with 5 points, but all of my other players blanked. Even though on paper ahead of game week 6, the team looked really, really good, but Haaland did well and Rodgers got a bit of a lucky assist, touched the ball with his hand. So 5 points for Rodgers. I would bench Kudus for Joe Pedro. So this is another option. I haven't really thought that hard about benching Kudus. I think that this picture for Spurs, even though as mentioned Leeds have looked good, I think that there will be goals in this game, and I would like to have Kudus. I think he's one of the most nailed on players for Spurs. Guys, he is the most owned player in FPL. This is typical Joao Pedro, goes on crazy run and then just disappears. Yeah. We've seen this before. And then when you sell him, he'll haul again. Yeah, that's the problem. The thing is that benching Joao Pedro, it doesn't really make sense considering that he is a starter for Chelsea. He's given his price as well. So when I consider benching players like Joao Pedro, I think that sometimes it's smarter to just sell them. There are some good options up front, but Chelsea, they have a fixture swing in game week 9, really good fixtures. So I would like to have at least 2 Chelsea players from game week 9 and onwards. At the moment, I actually have 2 Chelsea players already in my team, Sanchez and Joao Pedro. So this is why I'm not considering selling Joao Pedro this game week. My plan is actually to give Rodgers his last game this game week for my team. He hasn't looked that threatening compared to last season. He was a bit lucky last game week getting the assist as well. So my early thoughts ahead of game week 8 is to sell Rodgers to bring in Anthony Gordon. Kudus was benched midweek. Yeah, this is another thing that has me a bit worried about benching Kudus. He will start. I think he's quite nailed on for game week 7. So Kudus, he will probably start. Sar, he got a rest yesterday as well. Only played 20 minutes. Rob Walker, let the music play. I want to play King Fulham. He looked great against Villa on Sunday. My rank 213k. I totally agree. I watched the game on Monday, Fulham against Everton as well. Josh King, he looked really, really good, especially in the first half. I think that at some point he will be. I think I wrote on X after the game that my prediction is that Josh King at some point this season will reach 5 million. Not sure, maybe that's a bit too much, but really good footballer. Lacking end product at the moment. I think it's due to lack of experience. Like he should actually have had that penalty early on in that game. Had a couple of shots. I think that he at some point will be a really good FPL asset. So only priced at 4.5, playing as the number 10 for Fulham. I think that he is a great option, to be honest. FPL, the English Aussie, Luca, you traitor. Have you played your triple captain TFS? Yes, I played my triple captain last game week. Luckily, I went for Erling Haaland in game week 6. He single-handedly gave me a green arrow for game week 6, so pretty happy about that. Of course, a bit lucky with the 2 late goals for Haaland in that fixture, but I talked about this earlier as well. He should have had a couple of returns. He could have had 2 extra returns in that game as well, so 4 a.m. deadline over here. Gotta tune into the early stream. Usually my deadline streams is a bit later, though I usually have the deadline streams on the actual deadline, but due to some commitments this evening, I don't have the opportunity to have the deadline stream when the actual deadline is. So this is the reason why I'm going a bit earlier this game week. What are your thoughts on DEFCON this season? I think that it's a great addition to the game, to be honest, because the player pool is increased, so there are more options. So defensive contributions has been a part of other fantasy games, and we've seen this in FIFA World Cup Fantasy, stuff like that. I think that it's a good addition to this game as well. I was a bit skeptic at first considering the DEFCONs because there was a statement from official FPL that there would be no live count of the Cibits, but I think that how they implemented that it's possible to check actual Cibits during the game, I think this is a great addition. So we've had this with goalkeeper saves for some seasons, and I think that defensive contributions is a good way to keep FPL managers more engaged. So DEFCON, it's a yes from me. I think at the same time that it's a good thing that it's kept at maximum 2 points. I haven't really had that many DEFCON extra points so far this season. I had Van Dijk early on in the first game against Bournemouth. He was actually the first player to get DEFCON points, and at that point I had Van Dijk in my team, but there are a couple of players that I think at the moment are making a mockery of their price, like Senesi, Anderson at Fulham as well. So if Fulham can start keeping some clean sheets, I think their price will only keep increasing, but I think it's brilliant, especially for the midfielders. Yeah, as mentioned, I mentioned a couple of defenders, but players like especially Caicedo is actually a player that we should have on our watch list. So yeah, great addition. Got a run set up for my own deadline stream. All the best. Best of luck for game week 7 and good luck with your deadline stream. Some Australia to UK. Big time difference. Actually, in Norway, we actually are 1 hour different from the UK. So it's 1:30 at the moment. For me, Edwix, best of luck. So my team is on the screen at the moment. If you're interested in having your team reviewed, head over to X and post a picture. I'm fairly settled on my team. I already made a transfer this game week. I sold Chris Wood to bring in Gyökeres. I really want an Arsenal attacker going forward. Great fixtures for the Gunners. So Chris Wood to Gyökeres. I'm fairly settled on my captain as well, Erling Haaland. Normally I would be tempted by taking a captain punt, especially seeing that Arsenal and Gyökeres have a really good fixture, but I can potentially see limited minutes for Gyökeres due to him playing 180 minutes since last weekend. So Haaland captain. My last decision this game week is that I have to bench a good option this game week. At the moment, Joao Pedro is on my bench. I'm really tempted to put Joao Pedro in and bench Sar instead. This would be the 3rd time benching Sar this season, and he has actually scored both of the times I've had Sar on my bench, both in game week 3 and game week 6. And I sent my team. I'll have a quick look. Let's just take this first one. Ikwan, hi. My team, Donnarumma in goal, refs, Tarkovsky, Dan Burn, Senesi, Shaloba, and Timber. In midfield, Enzo, Semenyo, Grealish, Paqueta, and Anthony, Haaland, Gyökeres, Voltmad. Should I bench boost? I have 3 free transfers. Oh, with this team, I would be really tempted to sell Shaloba and use my bench boost, to be honest. Of course, a tough fixture for West Ham and Paqueta playing away against Arsenal, but if you make that one transfer, I think you will have 15 starters. I think that Enzo Fernandez is a good option this game week as well. Hard to put him on the bench, even though the fixture is not the best playing against Liverpool. But as mentioned, when I just started this stream, we got the confirmation that Alisson Becker, he will not play for Liverpool this game week. I watched the last couple of Liverpool games, and he is one of the reasons why especially in the first half against Crystal Palace. He is one of the reasons why they haven't conceded more goals this season. So Enzo Fernandez on penalties, I think that you definitely should sell Shaloba and consider playing your bench boost. Feels like West Ham will have improved defensively since manager bounce. I think that this will be the case. We've seen this before with Nuno Espirito Santos. He's only been there for like a week, so not sure how much work he can do in that short amount of time, but I definitely agree that West Ham will most probably improve going forward. Maybe this is better. Not the best quality, but at least I can have all of the team in one picture. So let's have a look at this. Oh, this is Pierce. Let's see. I actually had this up. So this is Ange's team, FPL Luca on X. Let's start by taking a look at the bench. As mentioned, you actually have Joao Pedro second on the bench. Ooh, I have Joao Pedro on my bench as well at the moment, but I'm really tempted to put Joao Pedro into my starting 11. So let's have a look. Bruno Fernandes, good fixture at home against Sunderland. Semenyo, Kyrgios, Gakpo, Reinders, Mateta up front, and Erling Haaland. I would actually be tempted to play Joao Pedro ahead of Gakpo or Reinders, I think. But there are, as mentioned, there are a lot of benching dilemmas this game week. There are some teams that recently wildcarded and recently bench boosted or have a plan like me to bench boosts soon. So a lot of FPL managers have some tough decisions to make this game week considering who to put on the bench. I'm tempted to start Lacroix, but I don't know who to bench and if I need to bring in any Arsenal assets. I think it kind of depends how much you have in the bank at the moment. I would be tempted to have an Arsenal attacker going forward, but I wouldn't sell Mateta. Haaland, he had to stay. Joe Pedro, really good fixtures from game week 9. So I think that having Mateta, Erling Haaland, and João Pedro is fine. So it would potentially be a transfer in midfield. But which midfielders from Arsenal are good FPL assets? I can't see rotation for the likes of Esse, Martinelli, Trossard. So I think that Saka is probably the only really good option in midfield from Arsenal. So at some point, I think that Gakpo will see more rotation. So if you can find a way to upgrade from Gakpo to Saka, that would be great. But with nothing in the bank, that will be hard. Another option with this team is to go for one of their defenders. I would actually be tempted to, if you really want to play Lacroix and think that Crystal Palace will do well against Everton, it's possible to bench Van Dijk this game week. I know it doesn't really feel right considering that he is expensive, but with Alisson Becker out injured, I think that Liverpool potentially can struggle against Chelsea. I mentioned this a couple of times already, but Liverpool, they really struggled, especially in the first half against Crystal Palace, and Alisson, he had like 3-4 big saves to prevent Liverpool from conceding 4 goals in the first half. So I can potentially see that Van Dijk potentially is not worth his price going forward. So Virgil van Dijk to someone like Timber could potentially be a way to get into the Arsenal defense. Would you rather have Gabriel or Saka over the next 5? So if I had an option to bring in Saka, that would probably be my main priority. One of the reasons why I think that Saka is a really good option at the moment is because of his ownership. He is captain material, especially in game week 10. Arsenal, they have a really good fixture at home against Burnley. Can potentially captain Saka for that picture. So considering that last time I checked, he was owned by like 6%. So he is a big differential at the moment. Gabriel, on the other hand, he is well owned, and the Arsenal defense is well owned. So of course there is a risk going without Arsenal defense if they keep a clean sheet. This will of course hurt our ranks. I don't have any Arsenal defenders myself. I only have Gyökeres. Rohit, is this a good week to play the free hit? Yeah, I think it's kind of team dependent. Kind of depends if you have any injuries in your team. If you have a lot of players playing against each other, stuff like that, it's definitely a good week to free hit. I think that the first free hit chip, I think that this is a great addition to the game as well. We talked about Defcons 50 minutes ago. I think that having double chips is a really great addition. There was kind of a template that we would wait and save our chips until a double game week, but I think that having to play one set of the chips before Christmas is really good. So the first free hit, I think that this is kind of a bonus. So if you have injuries, if you have a lot of players playing against each other, I don't see any reason to wait with the first free hit chip. So if you think that your team needs a free hit for game week 7, game week 7 is definitely a good week to play the free hits. Clippers, is it smart to have Guehi for 4.8 million? I know that you had the opportunity to have Guehi at 4.5, so it's kind of annoying to see his price go up to 4.8, but with some of those defenders that came in at 4.5, I definitely think that they are worth at least 5 million. So Senesi, Guehi, Anderson, they should probably have started as 5 million defenders. So Guehi at 4.8, I think this is still a good deal. Will NGI play centrally in this game week due to Dewsbury Hall suspension? So I checked the predicted starting 11 for Everton. He's still on the right in the predicted lineup, but of course he can potentially play more as a number 10. Didn't really impress me against Fulham on Monday, but hopefully he will be back in form in game week 7. One Ikwan, yeah, plan to transfer Shaloba to either Gabriel or Crystal Palace defender. If I don't bench boost this week, which game week should I bench boost with my current squad? Gabriel, really good option. Crystal Palace defense, solid as well. I would actually consider Lewis Hall as well. He hasn't played that much so far this season, but Livramento, he is injured, so I think that Lewis Hall will get a lot of game time going forward. Big differential. He was so good last season, but picked up an injury late in the 24-25 season. So Lewis Hall, he is definitely on my watch list. So if you think he'll start, he should be one to consider as well. Plan to transfer Shaloba to either Gabriel or Crystal Palace defender. If I don't bench boost this week, which game week should I bench boost with my current squads? Still have bench boost and free hit. I think that when it comes to the first bench boost, I mentioned about the double chips. I think that using the bench boost when you have 15 available players is probably a good idea. You can try to time that your benched players at least are not playing against your starting 11, but with your team, I definitely would consider selling Shaloba and using the bench boost this game week. The free hit, I think that game week 15 is a really interesting game week for a free hit. There are a lot of good fixtures for the best teams with the best FPL assets. So my plan at the moment is to play my free hit chip in game week 15. Let's have a quick look at the fixtures. Can't really remember which teams are playing, but so let's see. So these are the game week 15 fixtures. Man United playing against Wolves, Spurs at home against Brentford, Newcastle playing a really good fixture playing at home against Burnley, Man City at home against Sunderland, and you have Liverpool playing against Leeds. So game week 15, targeting those fixtures can potentially be a really good idea. Hall was so good last season, such an exciting player. Yeah, I actually played Lewis Hall in that game week where he had a brace of assists. Really, really impressive player. Especially from Christmas all the way until late April. I think that he was one of the best Newcastle players. Aritra Raha, what is your opinion on Xavi Simons? I think that he is a decent option if you want an attacker from Spurs. My favorite option is Kudus. I think that he is a bit more nailed. The thing I like about Xavi Simons is the fact that he is on set pieces, taking free kicks, corners, stuff like that. So he will potentially pick up some assists due to his involvement on set pieces. So Xavi Simons, I haven't really checked his ownership recently, but let's have a look. Only selected by 3.6% of the managers, so still a big differential. Newcastle, Liverpool, City playing relegation teams. Yeah, I think Game Week 15 is interesting considering the free hit chip. Same was that the week on free hit when Ait Nouri and Josisa hold as well. Yeah, I think it was prediction for the matches. We'll do that in a bit. Mohamed Khaled. Timber or Calafiori. I think Timber is the best option at the moment. Calafiori, decent, but I think that he will see some rotation going forward. I think Timber is a bit more nailed. Saka or Gabriel? I would go Saka mostly because of his ownership. He is a big differential due to his injury. So Saka, he is back. He's only... Did I actually check his ownership? Let's see. Only priced at 9.8 and only selected by 7% of the managers. So I think that Saka is probably the better option if you only have one Arsenal spot, especially if you have Raya in goal. I would definitely go Saka. So I talked about this earlier as well. When it comes to the Arsenal defense, they are the best defense in the league, and by not having any Arsenal defenders, there is actually a bit of a risk going without them. So, of course, the safest option is to go for Gabriel. He will cover the Arsenal clean sheets, but I think that Saka is more exciting and more of a differential. Ange Porro has been hurt as an asset this season. No more set pieces, not going forward much, and less def constant the center back. Yeah, I agree. Not happy with my Pedro Porro pick. He will be the first defender to leave this team. I watched the Spurs game on Tuesday, playing against the Norwegian side Bodø/Glimt. Spurs did not look great, to be honest, in that game. Lucky getting 1 point. They drew 2-2 in that fixture, but Pedro Porro, of course, he assisted Van de Ven late on in that game. Great delivery from Pedro Porro, so hopefully we can see this in the Premier League going forward as well. Sandri, where do you think I am from, mate? It's kind of hard to guess, but your English is good. At least your writing, not much to go for. Sandri, it kind of sounds like some Italian. Sandri. That's hard. Okay, we'll consider it a free hit in game week 15. Thanks, but even the promoted teams looks good so far. I mean, Sunderland could beat City, but that's football. Make it more entertaining. Sunderland looked easy. I think that I totally agree that newly promoted teams, especially Sunderland and Leeds, they have looked good defensively, but we've seen this before as well with newly promoted teams that they start really good, but when we get closer to Christmas, they don't have the same big squads as the biggest teams. You can see with a couple of injuries to key players, stuff like that, they tend to drop up. Excitement of getting promoted to the Premier League, but I think at some point that both Leeds and Sunderland will start to struggle at least a bit more compared to what we've seen so far this season. Burnley, they did so well defensively last season, but I will show you quickly their stats from. This was Brentford. These are the Burnley stats so far this season. They are worst in every defensive category. So they kept a clean sheet against Leeds in game week 2, but in the last 4 game weeks, they have kept 0 clean sheets, 10 goals conceded, 14 big chances, 26 shots on target, and they have an expected goal of 9.40. So Burnley, definitely one team to target. So I think that at some point, as mentioned, both Leeds and Sunderland will maybe not be this bad, but at least they will start conceding more goals. You were near Albania. I'm very good in both speaking and writing English. That's good. Do you know any teams? I know about Tirana. So like a classic Champions League side from Albania, but I'm not too familiar with the Albanian league, to be honest. Daniel Wells, would you get rid of Gabriel? If you have Gabriel in your team, I definitely would just keep him. Really good fixtures for Arsenal. I know there has been some rumors about Gabriel not playing, but I haven't seen any confirmation. So I think that a player like Gabriel, he will start or he will not play at all. So I wouldn't be worried about a late cameo for Gabriel and a 1-pointer. I think that if he's fit enough to play, he will start. And if he's not fit enough to play, he will not be in the squad. So where to send my free hit team? Let's see. I forgot this yesterday as well. You need to remind me in the chat. So if you're interested, go post a picture of your team under my latest post on X. So I'll quickly head over there and see if there are any more teams. So this was FPL Luca. So if you're interested, head over to X, post a picture of your team under this post. It's my latest post on X, same handle as on YouTube, FPL TFS. I'm leaning towards playing Joao Pedro. Let's just put João Pedro in the starting 11. I remember you actually posted yesterday. I forgot a couple of teams yesterday. Let's see. FPL shorts Sar in, Minta in. Is it worth replacing Savi and Dewsbury Hall? I still think that Savi Simmons is a decent option on set pieces for Spurs. It's kind of annoying because I picked Pedro Porro because of the set pieces, but so far this season, Savi Simmons, he has been taking free kicks, corners, stuff like that. So I think that he is a solid option. Dewsbury Hall is suspended for game week 7, but I don't necessarily, if you can bench him this game week, I don't necessarily see him as someone you have to transfer out. So this is the mentioned free hit for game week 7. Let's have a look. This was posted yesterday, but I forgot to check, so let's have a look. Hard to fit all this. It's probably better to just do this. So let's have a look. Might do Voltmade or Saka downgrade. Okay, let's see. Ingol, Nick Pope, Cash in defense. I mentioned this in my comment. I think that Cash, he actually played for Aston Villa in Europe, so I think that probably Dean is a bit safer on a free hit. Timber, good option. Senesi, Calafiori. Hopefully both of them will start. I think that Calafiori and Timber will start in game week 7. I think they're decent spots on a free hit. I wouldn't necessarily have Calafiori in my team using my wildcard or free transfers because I suspect that there will be more rotation going forward. But Lewis Kelly, he has looked great. White will be back as well. So Saka in midfield, I would have Saka as well on a free hit. Only selected by 7% of the managers, so a big differential. Bruno Fernandes at home against Sunderland. Phil Foden captain. Voltmade, Allen and Watkins up front. And you're interested in getting Anthony Gordon in, downgrading Voltmade, and getting Anthony Gordon. I think that I like the idea of Anthony Gordon on a free hit, so I would keep Saka if you really want Anthony Gordon, and I get why you want him in your team. He's nailed on to start. I think that he will start for Newcastle and he is on penalties. So downgrading Voltmade, going for a 4-4-2 with Anthony Gordon sounds like a really good idea. I would keep Saka as mentioned. He is a big differential, only selected by 7% of the managers. So, but it's not like I don't think Voltmade is a good option for game week 7. I think that he can do well, but I like Anthony Gordon a bit more. One Ikwan, yeah, right. Big team, good squad depth. Time will tell, but kind of like the idea of weaker teams beating stronger ones. Kind of boring to have the same champions or top four. Sunderland to stay up if main players stay fit. Yeah, of course, if they can stay fit, they have really good chances of doing well this season. So which team was it that started so well? They had Pukki up top. Green jerseys. But they were a good example of a newly promoted team doing really well in the first couple of months. But Norwich, of course, Edge, thanks. Had a really great start. Was this a 22-23 season? Correct me if I'm wrong, but at least a couple of seasons ago, started really well, but picked up some injuries to some of their key players, and all of a sudden they were a team that all FPL managers targeted. And I think I'm going to roll and back Gakpo to start, bench Van Dijk, Reinders, or Lacroix. I think that Gakpo probably will start in game week 7. Alexander Isak up front. Ekitike is not 100% fit, so Gakpo is probably good to go for another game week, but I can't see rotation going forward. Mo Salah, he will play most minutes. I can't really see Gakpo, Ekitike, and Alexander Isak and Mo Salah. This was the free team. Let's see if there are any other teams in there. FPL Neil, thanks for reposting. This was Lucas Team Spares. I'm not really sure. Have you had a look at this Team Spares? Let me know in the chat. I Spares 42 minutes ago. A really strong team. This is probably a wildcard team. Strand Larsen, good fixtures for Wolves coming up. Big differential. Really like Strand Larsen. Potentially on penalties for Wolves as well. This team is probably a wildcard team. Not really sure. But I would consider bench boosting. To be honest, Dubravka, Strand Larsen, Guardiola, Schade on the bench. So who would you bench out of the three? I missed that one. Got to go now, but what's your name, man? Anyway, thanks for the replies. Have a nice game week, everyone. Wish all have a good green arrow. So best of luck for game week 7 and have a really nice weekend. My name is Eric. So I am from Norway, so it's actually written with a K at the end, not a C, but yeah, it's pronounced same as in English. So best of luck for game week 7 and have a nice weekend. Let's have a quick look. I need to scroll a bit up. Who would you bench? Who would you bench? So Van Dijk, Reinders. Like the idea of benching Van Dijk this game week. I know that Chelsea, they haven't been great recently. Cole Palmer is out as well, but I think one of the reasons why I would be tempted to bench Van Dijk is the fact that Alisson, he will not play in game week 7. He is injured, and Slot said that he will not be ready for game week 7. So benching Van Dijk could be the solution this game week. Yeah, I agree, to be honest. Hopefully no Van Dijk bullet header. It feels like when I actually owned Van Dijk for big parts of last season as well, and I actually managed to bench him for one of those bullet headers. So this is, of course, the risk you're running by benching Van Dijk. Game against Chelsea, it's those kind of fixtures Van Dijk usually pulls something out of his hat, but it's really, really hard. It's really close, to be honest. But Van Dijk, I would probably just risk it and bench Van Dijk. Having no Liverpool defenders could be a good differential as well. So let's take a quick look at the fixtures and a quick prediction. So I've done a couple of those predictions earlier as well. I think that last week it wasn't that bad. Got a few good calls last week, but let's try again. So this is the game week 15 fixtures. The reason why I had a game week 15 fixtures up was because of a question on when I'm going to play my free hit chip. And at the moment, my plan is to play the chip in game week 15. A lot of good FPL teams with decent fixtures in game week 15. So at the moment, that's my plan. But let's switch this back to game week 7. So tonight, first game, it's a Friday deadline, and Bournemouth, they are playing against Fulham. Bournemouth, they have looked really good so far this season. Fulham been a bit up and down. They looked good defensively against Everton on Monday, but I think Bournemouth will take this one. So I would say 2-0 to Bournemouth in that fixture. Leeds, Spurs. I know Leeds have been solid defensively, but I think that there will be goals in this game. I'm really hoping for a Spurs clean sheet, but I can't really see it. I think Leeds will score this fixture, I would say 1-3 to Spurs. Arsenal, West Ham, the opposite in that game, 3-1. Really hoping that West Ham can score against Arsenal. I have no Arsenal defenders, only Gyökeres for me in that fixture. Really hoping that West Ham can play, but realistically, I think that Arsenal can keep a clean sheet. So 3-0. I will change my prediction to 3-0 to Arsenal. Man United, Sunderland, a hard game to predict. Man United, as with Fulham, haven't really looked that bad, but in some games they have been terrible. So I think this will be closer than people think. On paper, the fixture looks really good for Man United players like Bruno Fernandes and Bumo, seeing that Sunderland at home fixture, but it will be a bit harder than predicted. But I think Man United will win, but maybe this will end 2-1, something like that. Can't really see a 4-5-0 win to Man United, so I'd say 2-1. Chelsea-Liverpool, I think that Liverpool will concede against Chelsea, considering the fact that Alisson is out, but still think that Liverpool will win this fixture. Maybe this will be a really, really interesting game to watch. Maybe something like 2-3 to Liverpool in the end. Aston Villa, I think they will do well against Burnley, 3-0. Everton, Crystal Palace, 2-2. I think that they will share points. Everton, they actually haven't conceded any goals at home, so maybe 1-1 is a more viable prediction. Newcastle, Nottingham Forest. I think Newcastle will take this one, 2-0. Wolves, Brighton. Wolves have looked a bit better recently, but I think that Brighton will win. I would say Wolves 1, Brighton 2. Another penalty miss from Bruno will be the end of me. I think that Bruno Fernandes owners, they have been a bit unlucky. Of course, I can't really remember which game week it was. Was it game week 2? Where he scored a really late penalty. A lot of managers actually captained Bruno Fernandes for that fixture, so Bruno Fernandes owners have been both lucky and unlucky so far this season. So if you're interested, go join the head-to-head mini league. I haven't really checked how many entries there are so far, but first couple of game weeks we only were 2 players in there. We got up to at least 6 ahead of game week 6. So if you're interested, go join that mini league as well. Did you see what happened in the Europe League yesterday? 3 penalty misses in Rome against Lille. I didn't watch the game. I actually had a Q&A and we discussed it in the chat yesterday. So I just read what happened on live score. So I didn't watch the game live, but 3 penalty misses in one game. I haven't seen that before. Was it the same player that missed all of the penalties as well, or was it 3 different players missing? Imagine if Bruno Fernandes missed 3 penalties in one game. That's like minus 6 points. Do you watch F1? Not regularly, but it's like if I don't have anything to do and it's on, I have the opportunity to watch. I have the channel, stuff like that, but I'm not really a big F1 fan. I watched the Netflix series all of the season, Drive to Survive. I think that's really good, but most of my time at the moment, so if I have the time to watch TV at all, it's mostly watching football games, to be honest. Not the same player, 2 times Dobik and 1 from Sula. Okay. So was Dobik on the pitch for that last penalty, or was he subbed out? No, someone missed 2 and then someone else took the 3rd and he missed also. I've seen this, of course, in penalty shootouts, but never in an actual game. And okay, I'm going to lock in my team. Getting late over here, so I'm going to get some sleep. Hope you can get some luck this week and enjoy the outing tonight. Thanks for joining in once again. Really, really appreciate it, and best of luck for game week 7. Yes, he was on the pitch, but he gave it to Sule. Will be interesting to see who takes their next penalty. So Haaland, he is the most transferred in player so far this season. He will potentially reach 1 million transfers in ahead of game week 7 as well. We saw this ahead of game week 6 and he was the most captain player. I think his ownership will be above 100% effective ownership for game week 7 as well. Senesi, he is second, close to 600k transfers in, while Gabriel is close to 500k transfers in. The most sold player ahead of game week 7 is actually Mo Salah. Joe Pedro, he is second, and Chris Wood, he is third on that list. My transfer this game week was actually to sell Chris Wood, and I brought in Gyökeres. So let's get this team. There we go. So this is my team. I have actually made some changes live on the stream. I brought Joe Pedro back into my team. At the moment, Sar is on the bench. Go vote in the poll. Joe Pedro, he is once again, this was the same yesterday. Joe Pedro, he get most votes, 53%, NGI 36, Sar 12. I think it's the same result as yesterday, to be honest. Joe Pedro, he got most votes, while Sar, he got less votes. At the moment, actually leaning towards benching Sar. The funny thing is that I actually benched Sar in game week 3 and game week 6, both game weeks where he actually scored. So kind of annoying. But if I put Sar on my bench against Everton, surely it can't happen again. So Everton, they have actually kept 2 clean sheets out of 2 possible at home at the Goodison Park. So I think it will be hard for Crystal Palace. The thing with Joe Pedro is that Alisson, he is injured, so I'm really tempted to start him. Liverpool, they have actually struggled defensively, and they have been saved by Alisson Becker a couple of times. He is injured and will miss game week 7, so I don't really see a clean sheet for Liverpool in game week 7. So this is one of the reasons why I have been talking about benching Van Dijk this game week, for those who have asked about Van Dijk. NJ can drop to the bench as well, but on the other hand, he is a nailed-on starter for if NGI delivered and he was sat on my bench. My plan is actually to play my bench boost next game week 8. I could, of course, play the bench boost this game week as well, but I have Dubravka playing against Rodgers and I have Rodon playing against Kudus. Not a good picture for Williams playing against Newcastle. I don't have any Newcastle attackers, but not that tempted. So I will probably just save my bench boost and play it next game week to avoid having the players on my bench play against the ones in the starting 11. So early thoughts ahead of game week 8 is to use my bench boost. Especially if Rodgers blanks against Burnley at home, I will definitely sell him, and I have the funds to upgrade Rodgers to Anthony Gordon. So this is my early thoughts ahead of game week 8. Rodgers to Gordon and bench boost. Bruno or Sar for game week 7. I would definitely start Bruno ahead of Sar. I know that Sunderland have been solid defensively, but it's a home game for Man United. Bruno Fernandes, he might still be on penalties, even though he missed a couple. I can't really see Bruno Fernandes being taken off penalties. So we saw this when Ronaldo joined some seasons ago, that Ronaldo, he took their penalties, but this was like more of an agreement that Ronaldo was on penalties. I don't really see that Bruno Fernandes is being told to not take them anymore. So Bruno, I would start Bruno Fernandes for game week 7. He's still on some set pieces as well. I know Mbumo taking some corners, but Bruno still taking corners, free kicks. I think that he is a solid option for game week 7. So the bookies' top 3 predicted clean sheets. Arsenal, they are top. Aston Villa second. Man United third. Good fixture for Man United. The bookies are giving them 42% chance of a clean sheet against Sunderland. Holland, he is the bookies' predicted anytime goal scorer. 54% chance of a goal against Brentford. Gyökeres, he is second, while Watkins, he is actually the first time this season, Ollie Watkins, he is on the list. Scored in game week 6. Actually a really, really good goal against Fulham. Keep or sell Foden? Definitely keep Foden. Don't see him as a priority sell this game week. Think he'll start. Can potentially do well against Brentford, so I think Phil Foden is a keep. My team: Raya, Dan Burns, Senesi, Gabriel, Semenyo, Reinders, Sar, and Bruno Fernandes. Up front, Gyökeres, Foltmada, and Holland. On the bench, Dubravka, Gravenberch, Alderete, and Rodon. I think this team looks really good. I wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest. Dubravka, not play Dubravka when you have Raya in goal. Gravenberch, kind of a tough fixture for Liverpool playing against Chelsea, so he would be on my bench as well. Same as with Alderete against Man United, and Rodon playing against Spurs. I would actually be tempted to have Rodon ahead of Alderete. I don't really think it matters that much, but seeing you don't have any Spurs attackers, might as well have Rodon ahead of Alderete. Strong team. I really like this team. Holland will probably be your captain as well. I think if you still haven't used your triple captain, I talked about this earlier on this stream as well. I think that game week 7 actually is a good time to use the triple captain if you still have it available. Let's have a quick look at the Brentford stats. So I make those captain selections for ahead of every game week, so it's in my team selection video. So would really appreciate if you go watch those videos as well to help boost the watch time hours on the channel. That would be really appreciated. So in the team selection videos, I take a quick look at the previous game week, take a look at transfers, watch list, and at the end of the video I always take a look at captain options. So this is one of the captain options for game week 7. Holland, he will most probably be my captain. It's 99% locked in. I'm a bit tempted by Gyökeres, but I think that he will see limited minutes. So Erling Haaland, he will be my captain. And when we take a look at Brentford, they haven't kept any clean sheets in the last 4 game weeks. Conceded 8 goals, 11 big chances, 18 shots on target, and they have an expected goal of 5.88. So seeing that they have an expected goal of 5.88 and conceded 8 goals, they have been a bit unlucky conceding 8 goals when we take a closer look at the stats. But at the same time, they have 11 big chances conceded and 18 shots on target, and this is 17th worst in the league. So I think that Brentford is a good fixture for Man City in game week 7, even though it's at the G-Tech. So I got a question about Phil Foden. Is he a sell? I read a really interesting stat about Phil Foden against Brentford. I think that in the last couple of seasons, Phil Foden, he has actually scored all of Man City's goals away against Brentford. I think it was like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was the last 4 goals scored by Man City at the G-Tech Stadium was scored by Phil Foden. I'm thinking to bench boost in game week 8, triple captain used last week. Yeah, good game week to triple captain. Was most probably Haaland right at home against Burnley. I did this myself. He actually carried my team. I got a green arrow last game week, and this was, can't say mostly, it was all because of Erling Haaland. I only got 1 single return from my other players, and this was the assist from Roy. Headache this game week, but I will save my bench boost chip for game week 8. So this is my team at the moment. Sar is on the bench, NGI and Joe Pedro, they are in. In the poll, Joe Pedro, he is the favorite to drop to the bench, but I'm actually leaning towards starting Joe Pedro. I know he has not delivered recently, only 1 shot in the last 4 games, but Liverpool, they will be without Alisson Becker for that fixture. I'm leaning towards starting Joe Pedro. On the other hand, I'm really tempted to bench Pedro as well. Not having Joe Pedro for game week 7 is actually kind of a differential considering his ownership. And Sarhi is a good differential. NGI as well at home against Crystal Palace on penalties for Everton. I might actually switch back to Joe Pedro on the bench. I think this is probably the hardest decision I've had to make so far this season, considering the bench. So I had a Q&A last night as well, and I had the exact same question in the poll, and with the exact same result. Joe Pedro, he was the favorite. NGI second, and Sar got least votes. So only 13% for Sar, 54 on Joe Pedro. I might actually just go and switch this back. But then again, another thing with playing Joao Pedro, I talked about this yesterday as well. Liverpool Chelsea, a really, really interesting game, but not having any players in that fixture for FPL. Mm-hmm. I'm still not 100% sure about benching decision this game week, to be honest. But 84 votes, Joe Pedro 54%. So, what's your overall rank? My rank at the moment is 4.9 million. Not great. I had a terrible start this season. Only got 28 points in game week 1, so a horrible start. Even though the team, of course, looked really good on paper. I took a punt in game week 1. I captained Jared Bowen for what looked like a really good fixture on paper playing against Sunderland. So Jared Bowen, he was my captain. Failed massively, and I got a game week rank of 9.6 million, something like that. So horrible start. At least ahead of game week 7, I've managed to half my rank. So 4.9. Hopefully I can continue picking up green arrows. Orange Apple, hey bro, how are we? Just fine. I have a decision to make with my own team. Doing the stream a bit earlier ahead of game week 7 because of commitments tonight. So I will not be able to be live. I usually, when I do those live streams on deadline day, I usually have the stream on the actual deadline, but going a bit earlier this game week. Regan Maraba, Wirtz out for Esse or Sar? I think when we consider Esse and Sar, at the moment I actually think that Sar is the better FPL option. He is nailed on for Crystal Palace and they have decent fixtures coming up. Arsenal have lovely fixtures, but I can see some rotation for Esse. They have other options available at the moment. Madueke is injured, but he will be back. And they have Martinelli, they have Trossard. Saka will play most minutes. So at the moment, I would say Sar. But if you don't have any Arsenal assets, I would probably go for a punt on Esse. So yeah, in short, I think you should go Esse if you don't have any Arsenal players. But if you already have an Arsenal player in your team, I would go for Sar. Orange Apple, I have one free transfer and have Ekitike and Wirtz. Would you do A, Ekitike to Gyökeres, Wirtz to someone like Doku, roll the transfer, Murillo to an Arsenal defender? Can't go Gabriel. I think all of those options are decent. My priority would probably be to sell Ekitike at the moment. So Ekitike to Gyökeres would definitely be my transfer with those options in mind. So A, Ekitike to Gyökeres, it's close to what I did this game week as well. I made a transfer, I sold Chris Wood to bring in Gyökeres, my only Arsenal asset at the moment. So Ekitike to Gyökeres. So even though Ekitike is not out long term, he will potentially miss game week 7 and be back soon, but I can see some rotation going forward. Alexander Isak, he is back. So I think Ekitike was a really good option at the start of the season, but now with Alexander Isak back with full match fitness, I think selling Ekitike makes sense. Do you like Doku? I think there are better options, but if you want a Man City player and you can't afford Phil Foden, I think that Doku is a good option at the moment. The problem with players like Doku is that they are prone to rotation. We can call it that, the Pep roulette. So Doku, all of a sudden, he can be benched. But of course, really explosive asset. And Man City, they have a really good fixture this game week as well. I just had some stats from Brentford's defense up on the screen, and I think that Man City will do well in game week 7 against Brentford. I talked about this earlier as well. If you still haven't used your triple captain, I think game week 7, if you have Erling Haaland, I think this is a good game week to use the triple captain as well. Orange Apple, if you plan to wildcard next week, would you still do Ekitike to Gyökeres for a 1 week punt, or roll and have 2 free transfers after a wildcard? I think with the injury doubts around Ekitike, I think it's a bit too expensive to just carry on the bench. It kind of depends who you will have in your starting 11 instead of Ekitike. I would be tempted to sell him and just bring in Gyökeres, but if you have a really strong option on your bench as well, you might as well just save and have 2 free transfers after using your wildcard. So this is definitely an option as well, but Elevate with Sorrow, where are you from, mate? I am from Norway. So from Norway. My English is not 100% perfect, I know, but I actually think I'm getting better after starting having those streams. I think I can practice my English. Storm, when we use wildcard, don't the transfers reset and automatically go to 1 in the next game week? So this has been the rule earlier when we used the wildcard, but I think this was implemented actually last season, that after using the wildcard, you will get the same amount of transfers that you had before pressing the wildcard button. So if you have 2 free transfers when you use your wildcard, you will actually have 3 free transfers after using the wildcard. So you're definitely right about the transfers being reset, but this was changed. I think it was last season. Captain Ahmed Abdallah, brother, what's opinions about Django Otara? Who's the best replacement? Kind of depends on the budget. I think at the moment that Anthony Gordon is a really interesting asset, but he's a bit more expensive, so you need some funds in the bank to do that transfer. So, as mentioned, kind of depends on the budget. Should have asked before I spent my 2 transfers yesterday. At least this season, this was changed like 2 or 3 seasons ago, so we've had double wildcards for some seasons now, and especially this season we have double all of the chips. But I think that the rule change, considering the wildcard and the transfers, I think this was a nice addition. You can save transfers and get those transfers back after using your wildcard. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this rule was implemented ahead of the 24-25 season. Who would you start? Reinders, Joao Pedro, Thiago, that one got away, Thiago or Estevao? Probably Reinders, because he is in the predicted starting 11 for Man City, and I think that the fixture for Man City this game week playing away against Brentford is actually a really good fixture. So I'm actually not 100% sure if I will play Joao Pedro myself this game week, but he's currently on my bench. So I would be tempted to start Reinders. I was planning to bench boost after bringing an Arsenal defender in. Now Gabriel in doubt. I'm not sure what to do. Ooh. So the thing with Gabriel, he is one of the most transferred in players. I think he's close to 500k transfers in. He's not been confirmed to miss game week 7. And with players like Gabriel, I think if he's fit, he will start and play 90 minutes. But if he's not fit, he will not play at all. But this doesn't really help on a bench boost, right? So you want all of your 15 players in the squad to play. So if you have Gabriel, probably not the best game week to use the bench boost if you're not sure he will play. Probably save the bench boost for game week 8 and just put Gabriel in your starting 11 and have your best defender first on the bench. Would you rather have NGI or Minte? I actually like NGI as an option. I'm considering to bench him this game week, but going forward, I think that he is a solid option. One of the reasons is that he is on penalties for Everton, so he will pick up points going forward. I like Minte as well. So I got a question about a replacement. Let's see, from Captain Ahmed Abdallah, best Django Utara replacement. I mentioned I like Anthony Gordon going forward, but there is a price gap between Django and Anthony Gordon. If you can't afford Anthony Gordon, I think that Minte is a good option as well. I like Paqueta in that, around that price, and as mentioned, I think that NGI is a good option, even though I'm considering to put him on my bench this game week. Very clear, thanks. Storm, I'm at 117k overall. That's a really good start. $117k, really respectable start to the 25-26 season. Kind of the opposite for me. I actually had a terrible game week 1 with only 28 points. As mentioned, looked good on paper, but I just got one single return, and it was Van de Ven with 6 points. Captained Jared Bowen, was hoping for a flying start, but it backfired. Game week rank 9.6 million. At the moment, I'm doing a bit better. Picked up some green arrows, so currently I'm ranked at 4.9. Hopefully a new green arrow with this team. Holland will be my captain. I sold Chris Wood, brought in Gyökeres ahead of game week 7. Still have a bit of a benching dilemma at the moment. Joao Pedro is on my bench, but I'm considering both NGI and SAR as well. So go vote in the poll. Joao Pedro, he is still your favorite to be benched. 54%. NGI is next with 35. not that many votes for Sar. Only 11% want to put Sar on the bench. As mentioned earlier, decision for me so far this season. I talked about this earlier as well. I could, of course, just use my bench boost and avoid the benching headache ahead of game week 7. But my plan is to play the bench boost in game week 8. I have Dubravka playing against Rodgers. I have Rodon playing against my triple Spurs. And I don't really like the fixture for Nico Williams playing away against Newcastle. So we'll probably just save the bench boost for game week 8. So let's have a look. If you're interested in a team review, head over to X, post a picture of your team under my latest posts, and I can get it on the screen. No Minte. I think that Minte is a really good option at the moment. No Minte in my team, but as mentioned, I think that if you need a new midfielder in around that price, I think that he is a good option going forward. I really like Anthony Gordon as well. I think that a nailed on penalty taker for Newcastle with those upcoming fixtures. So my initial plan ahead of game week 8 is, as mentioned, to play my bench boost. I will, especially if Rodgers blanks against Burnley, I will consider selling Rodgers to bring in Anthony Gordon. But I will definitely keep Rodgers this game week. Let's have a quick look at Burnley's defensive stats. I think that if I had Ollie Watkins this game week, I would actually consider captaining Ollie Watkins. So these are the stats, defensive Burnley stats from the last 4 game weeks. No clean sheets, 10 goals conceded, 14 big chances conceded, 26 shots on target, and 9.40 expected goals conceded. So terrible stats, the worst in all of those statistics. So Burnley definitely a team to target going forward. This is one of the reasons why I kept Rodgers to give him this game in game week 7 at home against Burnley. Picked up a bit of a lucky assist in game week 6. Hopefully he can deliver in game week 7. I actually might sell Rodgers even if he does something against Burnley, to be honest, especially if Gordon looks good in game week 7. Watkins will score a brace this week. I have a feeling that Watkins will do well. I really liked his goal against Fulham as well on Monday. Really well taken, like a chip. So hopefully he can get his confidence back. So he was actually their first choice penalty taker. He took the penalty last midweek against the Italian side Bologna. I think that he potentially can be on penalties for Aston Villa as well, especially if McGinn is not on the pitch. Watkins will score a brace. I'll seek him after. I think if I were to use my free hit chip, Watkins, he would definitely be in my game week 7 free hit team. So 4 hours, 36 minutes until the deadline. I usually have deadline streams that are actually on the deadline, but this weekend I don't have the opportunity to stream while the deadline is so a bit earlier than usual. So a bit earlier than usual, and the reason is commitments later this evening. So if you're interested in having your team reviewed, head over to X and post a picture of your team. Have to go in like 10 minutes. Gyökeres, Semenyo, or Voltmade Saka. Ooh. Edwin FIFA, Gyökeres and Semenyo, or Voltmade and Saka. So I would be tempted to just say Gyökeres and Semenyo. Especially if you have a decent rank, this is probably the safest option, having Semenyo in, considering his ownership. He is on penalties, at least he took their last penalty. Evan Nilsson was on the pitch, but Kluivert potentially still their first choice penalty taker, but I think Semenyo is a good option. Not in my team, but I think he is a really good option. Gyökeres, he is rumored to be the first choice penalty taker for Arsenal as well. So with this combination, you potentially have the penalty taker for Arsenal and the penalty taker for Bournemouth. I really like Saka though, so I think it's hard. Gyökeres, Gordon, I really like that one as well. As mentioned, my plan next game week, the early thoughts is to actually play the bench boost, and I will most probably sell Rodgers to bring in Anthony Gordon. With Gyökeres, Gordon still have two penalty takers, Gyökeres for Arsenal and Anthony Gordon for Newcastle. So really good, solid options, but I like Saka as well, only selected by 7%. Price has come down to 9.8, so I think Saka is a really good option as well, but we can't have them all, right? So some choices have to be made. I have Gyökeres and Semenyo, but Voltmade, Saka, also very good combo. Totally agree, Storm. All of them are decent options going forward. Newcastle, good fixtures coming up. I only have Fabian Schär. He has actually missed the last couple of games. Hopefully he will start. Let's refresh this to see if there are any more teams. FPL FOMO, actually missed your team earlier. I saw you in the chat earlier on this stream. Please let me know if you're still there. Really sorry I missed your post, but here is FPL FOMO's team. Rangel, Senesi, Munoz, and Tarkovsky. Anthony Gordon, he is in. Semenyo as well, Bruno Fernandes, and Esse. Up front, Evan Nilsson, Gyökeres, and Mateta. NGI on the bench. I might bench NGI myself. Let's have a quick look with this team. I would most probably just bench NGI to be honest. It would be close between Evan Nilsson and NGI, but I agree with FPL FOMO. NGI, he would probably be on my bench. Especially seeing that Munoz is starting, so you will avoid having NGI playing against your Crystal Palace defender, so make sense benching NGI with this team. I would like to have all four of them. I agree. Edwin Piff are really good options. I would probably prefer going for the penalty takers, but all four mentioned are really good FPL options going forward. Icarus Falls, shall I play Isidore over Grealish this week or play both and sub Richarlison? I would start Richarlison. He is in the predicted starting 11 for Spurs. Solanke still out. Kolomwani not ready. So Richarlison, he will play up front for Spurs. So he would definitely be in my starting 11. I would be tempted to play Jack Grealish as well. He looked good against Aston Villa. He's getting back to what we remember from his Aston Villa days. Looks more confident. So I would play Grealish and Richarlison. I still think that Isidore is a good punt going forward. But for game week 7, he would probably be on my bench. Himris Gaming, I currently have Joao Pedro on the bench. My midfield consists of Xavi, Kudus, Semenyo, Reinders, and Ismail Assar. Should he be on the pitch if I have to take one of them off? I'm really struggling with something similar. I have Joao Pedro on the bench. The two other options I'm considering to put on my bench is Ismail Assar and NGI. I'm really reluctant to bench NGI. I watched the Everton game against Fulham. He did not look great in that fixture, but he is on penalties. He is nailed on. They're playing at home. I think starting NGI is a good option. We just had a look at FPL FOMO's team. He is benching NGI. So if you have any Crystal Palace defenders in your starting 11, I think it makes sense to bench NGI. But if you don't have any Crystal Palace defenders, I would start NGI. So there are a lot of popular Crystal Palace defenders, well owned. You have like Guehi, Lacroix, Munoz, of course. I haven't seen that many Henderson in goal, but their defenders are really good value at the moment. They have done well defensively as well, so there are a lot of teams with Crystal Palace defense. I'm actually not 100% sure if Joao Pedro will stay on my bench. I've switched back and forth between NGI, Ismail Assar, and Joao Pedro. By having Joao Pedro on the bench, I don't have any players for the Liverpool against Chelsea fixture. This is actually one of the reasons why I'm a bit tempted to put Joao Pedro in. So another argument for starting Joao Pedro is the fact that Liverpool, they will be without their goalkeeper. Alisson Becker, he is injured and will miss game week 7. He's done really well recently, especially against Crystal Palace. So I think that Liverpool will be weakened by not having Alisson Becker. Everton, they actually have kept 2 out of 2 possible clean sheets at home so far this season. So I think Crystal Palace potentially can struggle scoring against them at Goodison Park. This is one of the reasons why I'm actually tempted to bench Sar. Fun fact is that I've actually benched Sar 2 times so far this season, game week 3 and game week 6, and both of those games he actually scored. Yeah, it's a difficult one. Joe Pedro seems good to have on the bench, but I think there are 2 factors. Chelsea have been unlucky the last 2 games with red cards, and Liverpool in a downward curve. Totally agree. They've been a bit unlucky, and it's not like, I know that Joe Pedro, he has, when we compare his stats from game week 1 to game week 3 and game week 3 to game week 6, he has really bad attacking stats, but it's not like Chelsea as a team have low expected goal. So I think that, as you say, they have been a bit unlucky, and Liverpool on a downward curve. No Alisson Becker. Of course, starting Joe Pedro, considering his ownership, is the safest option as well. But I think that benching Joe Pedro is a good differential as well. I think this one is really, really hard. I'm still undecided. So in the poll, who would you bench, Joe Pedro, NGI, or Sar? Joe Pedro, he is the favorite, 53%. NGI is second with 36, and Sar only 11%. So 4 hours, 24 minutes until the deadline. As mentioned a couple of times, I usually have deadline streams on the actual deadline, but ahead of game week 7, I had to go a bit earlier with the deadline stream due to commitments later on this evening. So if you're interested, subscribe to the channel if you want more live sessions like this. I always have a Q&A the night before the deadline, and I try to do deadline streams like this on the actual deadline as well. But if you haven't done so already, please go subscribe to the channel. I post weekly team selection videos as well, with a game week review and transfer plans, updated watch list players to target, and I always end the video by taking a look at the best captain options and best captain punts ahead of each game week. So if that sounds interesting, please subscribe to the channel. I have to go, so thanks for everyone who have joined in and in the chat as well. Been really, really great. So thanks for joining in, and best of luck for game week 7. And